Butterflies have come to have a really special meaning to us, a really special place in our family.
We have butterflies everywhere in our house.
In our yard. I'm looking at several right now. I had always wanted to live in Savannah, and Joe had told me when we were dating, I'm never going to move outside South Carolina.
So I agreed. I said at some point in our life we'll move.
About 6 months after we were married,
We moved.
we moved here. We actually got pregnant with our first baby the weekend we moved here.
Yes.
So June of 2018.
So our whole plan of moving to Savannah and really enjoying Savannah life as newly married people with no children didn't really happen.
No. But we were thrilled to be expecting.
When she said she was pregnant, it was...
You spilled your beer, you were so
I
excited.
did spill my beer, I was so excited.
Had all kinds of genetic testing, everything was normal. And then we had a gender reveal and found out that it was the little girl that I had always wanted. If I was gonna have a kid, I knew I wanted a little girl. My little mini me, you know, doing nails together and all the stuff. So when we had the gender reveal, I couldn't have been more thrilled. We found out that Brielle was on the way, and then March 15th of 2019, she arrived, and it was, I can't even say it without getting emotional, but like the most love I've ever felt in my whole life. Really enjoyed life as a family of 3 for a while. I wasn't sure I wanted to be done with babies. Whatever's meant to be will be.
And then like a month after we made that decision?
Yep, 1 month later. Yep, 1 month later, pregnant again, shocked. So go through all the genetic testing again, go through all the, you know, anatomy scans and all that. Because again, at this point now I'm 40 and everything came back perfect, just like the first go. However, because I got all that genetic testing done, the test results came into my online chart and they left the sex of the baby in there unexpectedly. So I'm scrolling through a little panicked, you know, trying to make sure there's nothing wrong with the baby. Everything looks great. And then all of a sudden I see sex consistent with female and just started crying because I didn't want to know. And Brielle was in the room with me and she's like, Mom, you know, you cry. And I'm like, it's okay, like just sobbing. And ultimately both of us were so excited to have sisters. And so we just started gearing up for a little girl, coming up with names. With both of our girls, we didn't name them until they came out. So we had like lists of potentials. I think we had narrowed it down to about 2 or 3. And then when we saw them, we knew who they were. Basically, we're ready to have another healthy baby. Mm-hmm. And that's where the story changes.
When we got to the hospital for the delivery, the hospital was having major renovations at the entrance, so it was closed. So we had to go through the emergency room entrance and asked if this is a bad omen.
Luckily, it was the best C-section. I had the best staff. Everything was fabulous. And she was born. The moment I saw our daughter, we knew instantly she was Hallie Grace. And my heart just exploded with love for her.
Hi. Can you talk? Really? Yeah? What else?
They brought her over to the side to clean her up.
I walk over to see Hallie. I saw that Her fingernails were very long and folded backwards. There was a round blister on her left eye. And there was a blister around her umbilical cord. In my mind, I am terrified because this is not like Brielle. I've only had one kid. Maybe this is just kind of normal and it's just different, but I don't like that it's different. I come back to Ann while they're still working on her, and
Which seemed like forever for me.
Right.
I remember calling out, Joe, is everything okay? Is everything okay? Because, I'm laying on the table. I have no idea. By this point, normally you hear baby cries and congratulations and all that, and it was way quieter than I wanted it to be.
Right. And so I come to her and just tell her, she's good, she's beautiful, everything's good. I don't tell her anything about what's going on with her skin, because since I don't know what it is, I don't want to concern her, because she's already at a high emotional state.
Well, they came over and said something to me about she's got blistering on her fingers. We think she might have sucked them in the womb. And I said, well, is she okay? Yeah, she's okay, but we want to take her to the NICU just to determine what's really going on. And I said, can I at least see my baby? And they brought her over wrapped up. It was an incredibly brief moment. I got to kiss her cheek, and that was it. The whole team left. And then all of a sudden we're instantly separated again, and I was devastated. I was shaking, I was crying, I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I just kept thinking, like, is she okay? Is she okay? And then the neonatologist walked in, and the look on her face, I think neither of us will ever forget. She said the words, that changed our whole world: Epidermolysis Bullosa, EB. And in the moment, I think both of us were like, what the hell is that? It's long, it sounds scary.
Essentially, EB is the body's inability to make a vital protein that holds your skin together.
Where that mutation is depends on how deep that protein is missing.
Right.
So how deep in the skin. It could be much more surface level, which would create more of a mild case. And she said, your daughter has what appears to be a mild form. We have to do more testing to find out more. But the facial expression showed much more concern than the words coming out of her mouth. We'd been up for almost 24 hours at this point, but I wanted to hold her. And so we went, and they let me do skin to skin at that point and try and nurse, which she had difficulty with. She was very red and very warm, but she loved snuggles. I sang to her. We stayed up there until we couldn't keep our eyes open anymore. I think it was probably 4:30 or 5 in the morning, and just let her sleep on me for a while, and then we had to put her back. And leaving your baby, your new baby, was horrific. They ended up transferring her by ambulance up to MUSC in Charleston. So we ended up spending one night here while she was in Charleston, and we still have guilt over that. But
Yeah.
we also I'm still recovering from surgery. We had to pack up and figure out how to live life 2.5 hours away. We actually called the NICU when she was in MUSC that night, and I remember the nurse saying that as soon as she heard my voice on the phone, she calmed down. When we were at the hospital, I felt like I was in a horror movie, because her skin was so incredibly fragile that anytime you walked in, you had to be geared up in everything. It was like you were going into surgery. Hallie had to be covered in Vaseline from head to toe. When we held her, there were like 5 layers between us and our kid. We had to learn to be nurses, so a lot of her time in the NICU was them teaching us how to do wound care.
So we're being told that, your kid's going to have a limited life.
I mean, we went way into the future of like, is she going to be able to get married and have kids? Is she going to be able to do all the things that her older sister gets to do? When we brought her home, even getting her in the car seat, nightmare. We had to line it with things. The straps could cause blistering. He had to drive extra careful on the way home. And when we drove home, it was
A terrible storm.
terrible storm with a new baby and a 2-year-old who has no idea what's happening. When she first got home, it took us about an hour for every single diaper change with the 2 of us.
Yeah.
And then we had to do full bandage changes every other day, which took 2 to 3 hours. And all we could give her at that time was sugar water. You can't even comfort your child the way that you want to comfort them because their skin can't take it. I mean, Hallie she was strong. She barely cried. Taking her anywhere was incredibly tough. The regular strollers with the straps and all that would have been too damaging on her skin. So we bought this new stroller that was like a pram, and that way we could actually walk her out around the neighborhood so she could get some fresh air. And then we would put a mosquito net over the top, and that was really the only way we could get her out of the house. I decided to create a Facebook page for Hallie. And so in I think her first month and a half of life, she had almost 3,500 people following our journey from across the globe. And our house was consistently being blessed with supplies from random people I have never met. The EB community was incredibly welcoming to us and sent us care packages to help out that on average it costs about $10,000 a month to bandage your child, and most of that isn't covered by insurance.
How weird is it to when you get a package delivered to your home and it's wound care supplies and you are ecstatic? Like,
yeah, it was like
anytime
Christmas.
right.
People were so touched by Hallie and her story. She drew people to her. And that was an incredible thing to witness. I mean, your newborn baby impacting people across the world through her fight. We got the call that the genetic tests had come back. It was our worst nightmare. She had a subtype of EB called junctional severe, the rarest form of EB. It's about 5% of cases. Her missing protein was at such a deep level, everything was going to be impacted by this. And her airway, her gut, her doctor even seemed a little shocked. There was a lot of tears. I asked if she was going to die. Her dermatologist said, there's no guarantees either way, but we're going to try and stay one step ahead. Like, let's fight it to the best of our ability. And so that's what we decided to do. There's a couple EB clinics across the country. The one that we were recommended was in Philadelphia.
We had to make that decision to go really fast.
I think it was like 2 days before we had to leave. They called and said they had a slot open. Do you want to come? And so from Savannah to Philadelphia, we were like, what are we going to do? So we actually, we took a train. We had 16 appointments in 2 days. Dermatology, OT, PT, hospice care, pain clinic, geneticist. You bring your baby into a room and then everybody comes to you. So you're not having to constantly move your child, which is beautiful. They've seen over 1,000 EB patients. And the whole idea with going was to figure out, what is their physical assessment of how she's doing. Do we have much time left? What do we do here? To have junctional EB, it takes 2 mutations. Normally that's one from the mom, one from the dad. What we found out is that I have the most common junctional severe mutation that I carry. It's called R635X. Joe's, on the other hand, though, had never been documented, had never been seen before. And so even if we had been genetically tested for this in advance, his probably wouldn't have popped up. Since it was never documented before, we had no idea which direction it was going to go. So when it came back, we knew she was junctional severe, but we didn't know if she was terminal. And they were very real with us and said that it doesn't look good, but that they also couldn't say one way or the other. So we just keep fighting. They encouraged us to hold her more. They said, you're going to cause blisters either way, so you might as well just get in those snuggles. They encouraged us just in a lot of ways emotionally, like, wow, you guys are doing a great job parenting. I know this is really hard, but we can tell she's well cared for. When you have to physically harm your child to make them better, those are words that mean everything, because you doubt yourself constantly and you feel like a bad parent. Came back home on the train, tried snuggling her more. Most newborns are like a little bump on a log. Like they don't do much. They just kind of sit around. Not Hallie. She was lifting her head straight up from day one, smiling very early, engaged.
She was vocal.
She was vocal. She would coo. She loved it when Joe would drum on her big cheeks.
Very observant.
Oh yeah, we called her Judgy Baby
We did.
because she would let you know what she liked and didn't, and she would furrow that brow so strong. She'd be like, what is this? What's going on here? Like she was just completely taking in everything in her environment.
One of my favorite memories, she was crying. She was in pain, and Ann sang to her. She stopped crying right away, focused on Ann, and they were just locked.
Yeah. Hallie and I were locked on each other a lot. We would do nose nuzzles and stuff, and so I would sing the song Baby Mine from Dumbo. That was my little lullaby to her. I would sing to her and she would just lock eyes with me and we would go nose to nose, and she would like lift her face so that we could touch noses, and she would calm. She showed me that despite everything that I had to do, that despite all of my doubts, that I was still worthy and lovable and a good mother. Her skin just kept getting worse. And at this point, she was probably about, 60 to 70% covered in blisters. She showed a couple signs of healing here and there. And I would think, okay, what did we do that got us to this point? How can we like replicate this so that we can make the rest of her healed? She stopped smiling at that point though. September 4th, we started to notice this activity she was doing.
It looked like a seizure. Ann got very concerned, and I tried to tell her that it was okay because I didn't want to have to deal with anything else. But we decided to take her into the hospital.
The EEG came back normal.
Right. They wanted an IV in her to get her the fluids that she needed and the electrolytes, and that was so difficult.
Yeah, they ended up placing it in her head.
She just sat there and just let them do whatever they needed to do.
I had concerns about her breathing, but they did a chest CT and said everything was fine and basically said, go ahead and take her home. So we took her home. That was September 7th. I didn't like her breathing, so I actually took a video of it and sent it to a couple nurse friends, and they all kind of said, just watch her through the night. If you need to, take her back to the ER. We watched her. We got a lot of pictures. We held her. I actually remember like holding her to feed her, and it's one of my favorite pictures I have of me and her. I'm wearing a shirt that I wore the day she was born that says "So in Love," and she was just looking at me. We wrapped her up and she went to sleep, and she slept in a bassinet right next to my side of the bed, and I slept a couple hours that night, and to be perfectly frank, that's one of the things I regret most in life. But we woke up the next morning and she seemed a little better, and her dermatologist from MUSC called to check in because she's awesome like that, and I said, she seems a little better. Her breathing seems a little better. And another statement I will never forget is she said, is she better or is she tired? Get her to the ER. We got Hallie in the car seat, raced over to the ER. They got her in the back within a couple of minutes. They took her vitals and said that the machine wasn't working because her heart rate was in the 60s. So they went to try it again, and at that exact moment, the doctor walked in and I took my hand off of Hallie's chest, to turn around to say something to the doctor. So Hallie was laying on the bed and I took my hand off. And at that exact moment, she coded. And she left us. And they worked on her for a long time. And it was things that nobody, especially a parent, should ever see happen to their child. They tried to get us to leave the room. There was no way. So we had this amazing nurse who huddled us in the corner so we didn't have to look, and she explained everything that we were hearing as it was happening. And I prayed out loud. I prayed the lyrics to the song Oceans by Hillsong. As our world just crumbled around us. In the moment, I was the calmest I've ever been.
Scary calm.
It was the peace beyond all understanding that people talk about. It's like I knew that she was okay and with God. And I had lost a brother when I was little, and I just kept asking my brother Jeremy to meet her at the gates. And I knew he was there. It's like I felt her leave. And then at one point, one of the doctors from the team came over and said, "Your baby's not going to survive this event." And that's when I told them to stop. And we told them to wrap her up in the butterfly bamboo swaddle that she'd come in with a beautiful little matching bow. And for the first time, we got to really hold her and squeeze her like I'd wanted to do from the moment she was born. And so we did that for 4 hours. We just held her and took pictures and told her how much we loved her and gave her all the hugs that we had saved up for 3 months and 3 days that we had her. Both sets of grandparents were able to make it and got to hold her for the first time. Took pictures of that. And then we had to
let her go?
We had to walk out of that hospital without our child. And it was pouring rain.
A thunderstorm. Just like the day we brought her home.
And so right then I knew God was just as sad as we were. And that wonderful nurse took us by the hand and walked us away, and we left her on the bed wrapped up with another nurse standing there. And I said, "Don't leave her alone. Please don't leave her alone." And they promised me that they wouldn't leave her. And then we had to come home to this empty house with all of the signs of her. And we couldn't stay here. So we actually went and stayed with my parents for 2 weeks and just left it like a time capsule. And I think part of each of us died that day with her. When you have a kid with EB, your time is that kid. There's this amazing EB mom. She said, "Thank you for continuing to fight even though you don't have to anymore." In our minds, we have to, because it's just the natural thing that we would do to parent Hallie moving forward. I got the message that we were going to have a ball for Hallie's first birthday, and I remember thinking in the shower, that's really soon. I don't know if we could do this. And so that was the first thing that we decided to embark on in her memory, was to have this big fundraiser ball, kind of like a first birthday party. And so that's when the idea of an actual 501c3 nonprofit came to be. And so 3 months out from the ball, we decided to apply as a nonprofit. Within about a month, we officially became Heroes for Hallie Grace Incorporated. First year, we raised over $60,000 for the fight against EB, and it was mind-blowing, the amount of people that wanted to help and jump on board. We raise awareness, we help fund vital research, so we actually partner with larger organizations so that it gets into the right hands, and then we also help individuals with EB and their families. So you feel so alone when you're going through it, and so to find other people who have been through it has been so healing. The EB families are amazing, and we are just forever grateful to them. Anyone who joins us on this fight and joins us on this journey is joining because of their compassion and their empathy, and they want to see these families get the help and the support that they need. The first 2 FDA-approved treatments for EB have come on the market here in the US. It used to be known as the worst disease you've never heard of, but with all these people joining the cause and pushing that awareness, I feel like it won't be long before you can't really call it that anymore, which is the goal, right? In fact, the goal would be the worst disease we found a cure for.
Butterflies are a huge symbol for EB to symbolize the fact that butterfly wings are incredibly fragile
And beautiful.
and beautiful. And those with EB, their skin is as fragile as butterfly wings.
We've actually done a lot of butterfly releases, starting with Hallie's memorial service that we had here in the backyard to the different butterfly balls. We actually did a butterfly release for my maternity photos with Evan.
And that was really
incredible. Being able to kind of incorporate such a beautiful image to go along with such a horrible disease gives you just that extra comfort that you need to look to this beautiful thing and to think about how beautiful these individuals with EB really are. We like to say that we can still see how far Hallie is flying. We love to watch her little butterfly wings continue to impact and fly all over the world in every way that she possibly can, and that's one of those ways that we get to keep her alive in our heart and in our family.
all that we're doing for EB is also done to make her proud. I just want to make sure she's proud.
If she was here, nobody would know us and our story. So I know there's a plan. I'm grateful for the plan. We're leaning into the plan. And also we're kind of angry about the plan and sad about the plan too. I wish we were just the Davises down the street, that nobody had to know our story.
Out of dark, bright colors arise. Fly further than life, color the world, light up the night. Dream the dreams of our lives, they ride on her wings till morning arrives. Fly further than life, color the world, light up the night. Dream the dreams of our lives, they ride on her wings till morning arrives. In darkness, I feel her, she guides me. I'll hold on when shadows behind me find me with dawn breaking brightly. The moon sets, the tide leaves will soar over places where broken seems further, lifted by